Cadillac fans, I'm Daniel. Welcome back to the Jeff Violini channel. This is the third video in my three-part series on checking out extreme online stores base and V-Sport model parts. They have a front splitter, side splitters, and now this Wickerbill spoiler. It's basically like the CTS V spoiler, but with that extra lip on the back. This spoiler can be had for $299.99 if you want it in painted gloss black, or if you just want it in primer black, it's about $100 less. There is no carbon fiber option available at this time, unfortunately. Installing the spoiler takes a few more steps than their other products, but I'm gonna show you how I did it so you can feel confident to install it yourself. All right, let's take a closer look at the spoiler and I'll show you how it goes on. Unwrapping the EOS Wickerbill spoiler was just fine. It was packaged really well, and inside I found two parts. One is this nice piece of metal. The Wickerbill seems to be powder coated in black, and the spoiler painted in gloss black. It was absolutely perfect. I was actually pretty impressed with this part. I expected less, honestly. It looks pretty much just like a CTS V spoiler, but gloss black, and of course those bolt holes in the back. The threaded bolt holes is how you're going to bolt in the Wickerbill. You could, of course, just leave it like this and maybe just put in some bolts in there, like some silver ones. It would look pretty neat, but if you want ultimate aggression, add that Wickerbill to the back. Here is the underside, and they've even put the EOS logo right on the spoiler. I've never seen this before on their products. This must be one of their new things they're doing. All right, let's take a look at the tools necessary to install the spoiler. You'll definitely want some masking tape for my method, a trim removal tool, and a couple of sockets, maybe a 7 or 6 millimeter, some way to drive it. I like my Ryobi electric screwdriver. It's only 45 bucks, it's awesome, but if you want heavy duty, go DeWalt XR, it is really great. A Phillips and flathead screwdriver, a number 4 Allen key, and a magnetic retrieval tool. You'll understand why later. It's easy to drop these bolts into the frame of the trunk. Installing it my way, you'll need a 5/16 and 9/64 drill bit, and of course a drill to drill it with. I love my DeWalt XR stuff. You'll also want to clean your trunk lid with 70% IPA and a microfiber towel or equivalent cleaner. Lastly, if it doesn't come with the spoiler, you'll want some 3M double-sided automotive adhesive tape. All right, to get started, first we need to remove the trunk liner. Grab your flathead screwdriver and we're gonna open this little secret door on the grab handle. There's a 7 millimeter hex screw that needs to be removed. Use your tool of choice to remove the screw. Notice how fast that DeWalt got it out. Now just grab the grab handle and yank it out. Now we'll remove the latch cover. It pops right off, but if you need help, use a plastic trim removal tool. Now we need to remove the liner for the trunk. Put your plastic trim removal tool between the liner and the trunk, find the clips, and pry at that point. You don't want to pry somewhere else. You might pry the carpet away from the clip. Once they come off, they don't really glue back on quite the way they used to. I have about 9 clips around my perimeter of my trunk, but that may be because some auto body shop tore clips off in the past. You can see there's probably some missing. You can leave it there, or you can take the trim and put it away somewhere else. Now, let's look at the trunk. You can see there's some wires here. These are the brake light wires. I do have a brake flasher mod, so you'll see that it's a little different than yours, but just unclip this clip here, and then we can unbolt the spoiler with these 4 bolts. They're probably 6 millimeter, but if you have an aftermarket spoiler, they may be slightly different. So go ahead and unscrew those bolts. Be careful though, they usually fall off and then they get stuck in the frame of the trunk, and that's when you're gonna need that magnetic tool that I suggested you have. You'll see I'll drop one later. Okay, once you've removed 3 nuts, grab your brake light and remove the last nut. Now I'm holding onto the brake light because I don't want it to fall and smash my rear glass, but theoretically it shouldn't, because right here you probably have a blue clip and that should hold the brake light in place, but mine's broken off, so I'm gonna be extra careful and hold it. If you have a blue clip, squeeze it, maybe use some needle nose pliers and release it so you can pull the brake light away from the trunk, but be careful. Those studs are really sharp and you'll surely scratch your trunk if you're not careful. Now for my installation, I do suggest bolting the spoiler to your stock taillight assembly. You don't necessarily have to, you could just go with the double-sided tape I show you later, but I highly suggest you bolt it on hard. There have been many spoilers stolen. So here is my plan. You could think of another way to do this, but this is how I did it. I took some masking tape and taped over the outline of where our brake light's gonna go, and then I cut a little hole where the bolt hole is. I did this on both sides. What I'm doing is making a little masking tape template. This is common practice, and it's just one way of figuring out where things need to go. Now put your brake light down on the spoiler and you'll see the masking tape line is just a little different, so I'll go ahead and mark that with a pencil just so I note it. Now I'll take my little template off, and I can't apply it to the same side of the spoiler. I actually have to apply it to the opposite side. I'll put it on, making note of where my pencil mark was, and now I can see where I need to drill a hole in the brake light assembly. So go ahead and grab a drill bit. You'll want that smaller 9/64 drill bit to at least make a pilot hole. This will get things started. And having tape on a painted surface will also help make the drilled hole a little cleaner. Go ahead and do this to both sides. Take off the masking tape and you'll see you'll have a nice little hole on your brake light assembly. Line it up on the spoiler and make sure things look good. Next, let's make a bigger hole. You want to make it big enough to get the bolt through, but not as big as the washer. So I'm going to go with this 5/16 drill bit. Again, a little piece of tape on the paint will help make a cleaner hole, and I'll drill it out on both sides. Now that your holes are drilled, let's put the brake light assembly onto the spoiler and see how they match up. Well, I'm not perfect, and I found out that one side wasn't quite right. Take a look how this hole doesn't quite line up. Okay, no problem. I'll just use a slightly bigger drill bit and widen out the hole, or I could use a file to widen it out some more as well. But I'm using the drill bit to just elongate the hole a bit so it works out. Alright, now that that's fixed, everything lines up well, it's time to clean both parts with 70% isopropyl alcohol or equivalent cleaner. Basically, we just want a nice, clean, oil-free surface to apply our 3M double-sided adhesive tape. I'm gonna go ahead and apply this tape to this beveled edge of the spoiler. And then I'm gonna apply it also to the leading edge of the spoiler. Putting tape here will not only adhere the brake light to the spoiler, but it'll also help keep water from flowing into areas you don't want it to go. Once you get the tape on there, use a razor blade to lift up the backing. It's kind of tough to do. Every time I try this, it's a pain. Now align the brake light to the spoiler and press it on. You can now go ahead and install those bolts that came with the spoiler with a Phillips head screwdriver. Once those screws are in, go ahead and press the brake light assembly to the spoiler. Press and hold. This is what 3M double-sided adhesive needs. It needs pressure and a little bit of time for maximum holding. You could even use a few clamps if you wanted to help make this happen. Now that the spoiler's prepped, let's prepare to put it on the trunk. Always clean up dirty areas like this. Use your 70% IPA and a microfiber towel to get rid of all the dirt. Once it's clean, route the brake light wire through the center hole and carefully align your spoiler to the trunk. Remember, those studs are scratch monsters. Once the spoiler's in place, hold it there. open the trunk carefully and also have one of those 6mm nuts ready to go. Put one of the nuts onto one of the studs so the spoiler is secure. Now, hopefully you have that blue clip and you can just click the spoiler into place and it will stay, but again, I didn't have that. Put your nuts into place and oh, see, I dropped one and that magnetic tool saved the day again. Put all 4 nuts on to help hold that spoiler in place, and then we'll torque them down with our wrench. They don't have to be that tight, only 5 foot-pounds according to GM, and you see I'm using a small ratchet and just my fingers to make sure they are snug. Next, reconnect the brake light. You want to make sure that's connected, and then we'll put the trunk liner back on. Route it around the trunk supports, and then put it up on the trunk lid, but watch out for this. This is the emergency trunk release. You need to make sure it's routed through the trim. If you don't, you'll probably regret it later. Believe me, many of us have been there. Now snap in each of those metal clips that you still have on your trunk liner. Put the latch cover back in place, it just snaps back on. Snap the grab handle back into place, and then we'll secure it with our 7mm hex screw. Cover it back up with the little door, and now your trunk is done. Okay, what about the spoiler? We gotta put that Wickerbill on, right? Clean it up first, of course, and then grab your Wickerbill and we're gonna bolt it onto the back. Now you could start right at the center, but I decided to just bolt on the right side first. Notice the holes are slightly elongated. This allows you to center up the Wickerbill as needed. I got all the screws started and got them a little bit snug, but not too tight. I actually ended up needing to loosen them a little bit to make a small adjustment. Once those are in, you gotta bend the Wickerbill around the edge of the spoiler. Gonna put in the center screw now. Keep bending it around and put in the rest of the screws. It won't sit completely flush to the spoiler, but it will be definitely close enough. Once you have those bolts somewhat into place, go ahead and make sure that the Wickerbill is centered on the back of the spoiler. If it looks good, torque down those screws using a number 4 hex key. There's no torque number for them, so just make sure they're snug. Once they're all in, you can admire the work that you've done. You've got that really cool Wickerbill spoiler on your Cadillac CTS. The Wickerbill spoiler is on, and boy is that thing aggressive. Not only do you get that mean look of the CTS-V, but you add that extra lip and boy, it stands out. If you appreciated this install video, please show me by hitting the like button. Consider subscribing and hit the bell to be notified of my future videos. I got lots of great car videos, how-tos, car events, and yes, now Porsche videos with the addition of my GT4. So be sure to look out for more in the future. Thanks so much for watching the Jet Fuel Only channel. I'll see you next time.